All right, Aries, beautiful pull this week. So from Halloween, you pulled Death. The eternal cycle begins here. And then from Hidden Realms, you pulled the Queen of Light, which did show up as an ally, not a challenge. Illumination, enlightenment, and celebration. Basically, this is a do-over for you. Now, with Death, beyond being like the Death card, Death and Transformation here, it's also talking about getting to do something over again. It's like that second chance. And with the Queen of Light, it's like, okay, I get it now. I understand. Let me do things the right way. And it's almost guaranteeing success for you. All right, Aries, here we go. Here's your overall for the week. Oh, shit. Why? Now, the Tower doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing. And I love people who comment and say, yeah, I already know what that is. That already happened. Or I made that happen because I knew I had to do it, right? The Tower. Sudden, shocking, drastic change. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing here. But we'll see. Now, in the past, the Ten of Pentacles. What I'm getting from this is with the Ten of Pentacles, I mean, yeah, we could definitely be talking about like shocking events happening within a family situation. But I feel more so that this is about, you being in a place here where there may have been security instability. But I think that for you, the reason why we're looking at the Tower is because I think that you feel like things need to change. But like I said, right, like it could be family issues and things needing to change within the family. But it may be because of like, shocking news or whatever. But I don't know. The feeling I'm getting from this more so is that, I've had security and stability in this situation for a really long time. But, is it really producing what you want, though, is what I'm questioning with this. It's funny because it almost has like a Seven of Pentacles type feel to it. In the present moment, the Four of Swords. So needing to take a break, needing to recuperate here, calling a truce, especially if we're talking about conflict within the family. But I think it's more so you just need a minute to hear your own thoughts, And it's funny because I look at that raven and I think having a raven constantly like squawking at you going, never more, right? Like, just please, let me just think here for a minute. And this could definitely be about not really talking, because I always see the cutoff in communication with the Four of Swords, and then you have the Ten of Pentacles, and it may be that you need to think about what you're going to do here before everything just kind of comes down. I don't so much feel like this is you avoiding anything, though. The Star in future conditions, beautiful. So, there's definitely hope, healing, balance. You looking at, bigger and better, which I see with the Star. And it's funny because that comes immediately after the Tower, right? When everything that you thought was stable and secure comes down, it gives you a chance to look at things in a much bigger way, and understanding that you deserve better, But definitely having healing out of the situation is perfect, and then you have the Four Swords there, and that's the whole point, right? Your best path to follow, the Five of Pentacles. What I will say is that, if we're talking about like actually moving here, is that, for some of you, it may cause some financial strain, but I look at the Five of Pentacles and I think, okay, so if we're making drastic changes when it comes to, being secure and stable, right? It's because you need to, have some emotional balance and healing here. But with the Five of Pentacles, it may put you in a tough spot, but like you're going to be okay, especially with the Star being there. I look at the Five of Pentacles and think that these situations are never permanent, Now, on the other hand, though, I look at this and I think, being cast out, being rejected, being on the outside looking in, and it's like, you don't do that to yourself. I don't know. I almost wonder, like, if we're talking about family situations here, if you're tired of, feeling that way and just needing to make some major changes, right? But I still get the feeling of it may strain you a little bit, but you're going to be fine, right? Yeah. Yeah. In your environment, temperance. And then looking at the four swords, and then you move into the star. Yeah, it's what you need. It is what you need. I think that, there may be a little bit of a fear about where that's going to put you in terms of security and stability if you've already had it in the past. Now, this could definitely be a situation where, things just boom happen and it leaves you in a tough spot, but like you're going to be fine. It's saying don't lose sight of the bigger picture, is what I want to say here, especially with the star being there. With the four of swords and temperance, you're talking about, getting that equilibrium back, right? Being patient with the drastic changes that are happening, and not allowing yourself to get out of control. I want to stay the course. As silly as that sounds with temperance there, it's like, don't fall into complacency, you know, because if things, were perfect and secure and stable in the past, and you wouldn't be looking at the tower as the overall here, and things needing to change on that kind of a level in order for you to get to the star, right? Don't let your thoughts run away with you here. Keep your inner balance, your equilibrium here with all of this changing and all of this going on. It may be difficult. There may be some people who may look at what you're doing and saying, I don't want to be involved in this, and you may feel like you're alone, but you're not. Your hopes and your fears, the Ten of Wands. This, to me, feels like, okay, so if you're making these drastic changes, there's going to be a lot of responsibility that's going to be weighing on you. And then I go back to temperance. Don't let that, stop you, right? Don't stay in this like place of inaction. You can't let all of the details weigh on you to the point where you don't want to do this, because I look at the star and I think this is good. This is a good thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be bad and drastic and difficult and everything else, so don't let your thoughts stray to that. Now, there may be a lot of things that you're hanging on to, though, that you're needing to kind of release, though, too. Because I look at the Four of Swords and the Ten of Wands and think, if you're thinking here and wanting to, find some peace of mind, there may be some things that you need to unload, but you're not really talking, you're not really acting right now. But it's like you just need a minute, though, to keep that inner balance. But I still go back to this feeling of, don't stop yourself from doing this, because it may entail a lot of, things that need to be looked at, a lot of things that have to be done, right? And then feel like it's just too much. I can't do it. Yes, you can, right? And then coming out the Fool, and you just kind of drop it all and you're like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going, but it's because you see your star, right? It's not bad. It's not bad. With the Fool, if you're already looking at the energy of the tower, then yeah, it's not like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take a risk here and take a leap. No, the tower is already happening and you see the star and it's like, oh yeah, I see it now. I'm gone. I'm gone. I'm going. Okay. So now with the Sun, right? And if we're talking about things that need to drastically change for you, it's all about getting to a place where you're not being complacent just because the situation is stable, because you're seeing everything for what it is right now. And yeah, we are talking about your ego, and feeling better about yourself. Now with the Eight of Pentacles and, looking at the Four of Swords and temperance, again, it kind of goes back to that feeling of stay the course. There may be a lot of work involved. You're going to have to put a lot of effort into making this change. It's funny because with the tower, it's like, boom, right? But then what happens after that? Well, you're going to have to either get up and do something here or just stand in the rubble and go, what do I do? And then you have you with the Emperor. Yes, you do have control. The Emperor is control and order out of chaos. And with the tower being there, that's great, but for you, it's like you are in control of, the path that you're headed on now. So even though, you're talking about the Fool not knowing what's ahead, you're still in control. And it's because you see the star, like you see the bigger picture, you see that, you deserve bigger and better. And then the Emperor is also about exerting your will onto your environment. You know, things don't have to continue staying the way that they are. You can make those changes. You can enforce your will onto your environment and create what you want, and get control out of all of the chaos that is happening around you with the Tower and then looking at the Five of Pentacles. I just look at this and I think for you, you're just needing some drastic change, and it could be in a work situation looking at the Eight of Pentacles, but it's like for some of you, literally, it could be that, you're taking a break from family situations or from work. And it's like all of a sudden, boom, you like finally get it. And it's like, oh, yes, this is what I wanted to do. This was the hope and the dream in the first place. And now, you have this chance here to be like the Fool and take that new path. But there's going to be responsibilities that are involved, definitely, with the Ten of Wands. There may be some financial strains. Some people might look at you and say, I don't agree with what you're doing, but you're okay. You're not alone here. Stay the course. Keep your inner balance here. Because how you come out on this looks really good. I mean, really good. All right, let's take a look at the soul trees. And if we're talking about, you getting a second chance to do something here that you wanted to do in the first place, right? It's funny. It's like, it's a mystery how things happen, right? But that's the great thing about it. And then I look back at the sun and I think, when we're younger, we see the magic in life and here it is showing up for you. And it's like, wow, right? Like it's a mystery how these things happen. And it leads you into this big transition. But there's an awakening that is happening for you because of this, and I still picture you like going, yes, I finally get to do what I've always wanted to do. It's like the stars right there in your face. Like, yep, it's mine now. I don't care. I don't care that, things are going to have to change in a drastic way. People are just going to have to understand because this is about you doing what you want this time. And then look to your inner strength. You are stronger than you realize. Yep. Yes, you are. When I look at spend quality time together, if you're in a relationship right now and you're happy, this person is going to relieve all of the pressure that is on you right now to make these drastic changes. So it's important to spend time with them, right? But then look to your inner strength. With everything that's going on here, don't let anything stop you. Don't let minor details stop you, looking at the Five of Pentacles and the Ten of Wands, and then you needing to, pay attention to that guidance and keep that balance, right? But it's a beautiful reading, and I look at you coming out with the Emperor and I think, yeah, yep, that very much Aries, the Fool and the Emperor, right? And then you have the Sun. There is going to be, a lot of hard work that's going to be put into this, but ultimately, you get to create what you want, though, especially with the Emperor showing up in the star. Perfect. All right, Aries. So first of all, let me apologize for the late upload because there were some editing issues last night and I have to go back now and do the afterthoughts for you guys. But I'm looking back at this reading and I'm like, wow, man, this is really great. So, like I said before, this is like a redo for a lot of you. And now there's a chance for success. But I worry about some of you being complacent right now because I'm looking at the Ten of Pentacles and the Four of Swords and thinking, there wouldn't be this shocking, like drastic change here, if you were really feeling secure and stable where you're at. And it may be that, you just take a break from things here and you start to actually, move on and work towards things. But, I look at this and I think, and I'm looking at it coming down and things like drastically changing within, possibly family situations. But then also, to me, it has more of a feeling of I'm secure and stable where I'm at. But it's stopping you from actually doing, the bigger thing here with the star coming out, right? But then you needing to get your balance here through the change. you know, like needing to take a time out for a minute here before we start like shaking things up, right? But only in order for you to get your balance. But then I also look at this and I think guidance right now with these two, definitely don't let the minor details stop you. And I say minor even though we're looking at the 10 of Wands. Now, I also kind of go back to the family situation, and for some of you, yeah, it could be that there's something that you need to just kind of like let out instead of, you know, keeping silent about it. You know, but I still look at it moving you into a place of healing with the star. But, you know, I look at this and I'm like, yeah, right? It's like all of a sudden there is like this enlightenment and realization here and this awakening that you get to actually do what you've always wanted to do in the first place. And like it's actually happening now, you know, and that redo and that second chance. And the Sun, the Eight of Pentacles, and the Emperor, you're going to have to put in some work here. But, you know, you get to enforce your will, right? You get to, you know, create things the way that you want, especially if you get to do what you've actually always wanted to do. And that's kind of how I'm seeing the star, right? And then I look at the Sun and it's like you see everything now, right? And that awakening happening. And then I go to, you know, the soul trees and think mystery and look at the Sun like, yeah, you know, there was a time where we all kind of looked at life like, wow, right? But the mystery in the transition that's happening and creating this awakening for you is, I love it. It's fantastic. Now, as far as whispers of love, it's so important that you spend quality time with the people that, you know, love you, right? Because they're the ones that are going to support you. But I also feel like they're a relief, though, you know, for those of you who are in a relationship. Now, if you're looking to attract the right relationship, it's just saying that you need to spend quality time with people who are in your life, right? Whether they're family or, you know, friends, actual relationships. But I look at this and I look back at the Five of Pentacles and think that, you know, if you're doing something drastic because it's always what it's been what you've always wanted to do, then, you know, the people that actually support you are going to be the ones that you need to spend time with. But then look to your inner strength, right? You are stronger than you realize you can do this, you know, but you still come out with the Emperor. So yeah, I like it. To me, it's, you know, one of those few stories that I get to see where people make these drastic changes, actually do what they want, and they see success, you know, because it's definitely there for you. But like I said, don't let the minor details stop you from actually doing what you wanted to do all along.